Good morning, everyone. Today we're going to be talking about seed starting. It's my favorite topic, and I'm really excited to get started. I'm also going to be including some links to some really good resources that show you how to start seeds using the 3 methods that we'll discuss in this slideshow. So today we're going to cover seeds, stages of plant growth, seedling growing conditions, potting media and amendments, equipment and supplies, and methods. So we'll start with seed selection. Starting plants by seed increases your options and allows your season to start sooner. It increases germination rates over direct seeding and increases vitality. It also provides options for selecting varieties with disease and pest resistance and increased yields. We recommend that you select your seeds from reputable seed companies that meet federal minimum requirements for germination rates, pathogen testing, and traceability. We here use a variety of sources. The top 3 are from Johnny Select Seed, Osborne Quality Seeds, and Harris Seeds. It is recommended to purchase seeds that are regionally relevant. You'll get better yields if your seeds have been grown in an environment similar to what you're going to be growing in. It's not mandatory. I do know there are lots of great companies that will trade their seeds or little organizations. You just want to make sure that whoever's growing those seeds understands the importance of harvesting those seeds from healthy plants and that are going to make sure that you're getting quality seeds, especially when you're growing on a larger scale. So when you open up a seed catalog, you might see some of these terms, and I wanted to go over them so that you're more knowledgeable when you're picking your seeds. And I'm not going to say that you should be purchasing organic seeds or not organic seeds. You need to purchase seeds that are going to fit into your growing conditions. So if you're going to be growing in a high tunnel versus growing in a field or your area, but also seeds that fit your farming philosophy. So that's a choice that you're going to need to make. That being said, you'll see seeds that are certified organic. They are harvested from plants grown, stored, and handled in accordance with the USDA's National Organic Programs, NOP. They cannot contain genetically engineered traits. They must be grown without synthetic inputs and packed in a certified facility. There's another organic movement. It's called certified naturally grown. You'll see them in catalogs like Johnny's carries some, I believe, and they are verified to meet high standards for ecological production through a peer-reviewed process, but they're not necessarily certified organic. Just a distinction for you. You will see in whatever catalog you're in, you'll see hybrid seed listed. You might see F1 hybrid seed. It means the same thing. They're a result of a cross between two genetic parent plant lines. So they take 2 plants with traits that you want to have, and they cross them, and they produce a product like a tomato, and then they take the seed from that product, and that's what you're growing. And that seed will grow across between those 2 in red lines usually. And you'll get the traits that you want. So maybe like a small purple tomato. If you take the seeds from that small purple tomato and plant them, you may not get what the traits that you're looking for. You're going to get the 2 parent plants are going to pop up, and maybe some of their parents will pop up. But so you can't save hybrid. You can't save the fruit and then save the seed from a hybrid plant. But the benefits of growing plants from hybrid seed is that you get like higher vigor. It means the plants are going to do really well. They're going to produce well, and you're going to get those traits or maybe the pest resistance or disease resistance that you're looking for. We grow a lot of hybrid seed at URI. We're not a certified organic in the fields that we're growing for the teaching garden and the new Boots to Bushels garden. We occasionally buy certified organic seed if the hybrid seed has run out, or if they have something that, you know, we're looking for. But we can't, just because we buy certified organic seed, it doesn't mean that we can label our crops certified organic. There's a whole process for that, which in the class yesterday someone asked about. We will be going over that next week, I believe. The next seed you might see is open pollinated, or OP. Those varieties of plants that reproduce themselves naturally through cross-pollination or self-pollination. And then heirloom seeds are older pollinated strains that have been carefully selected, maintained, and passed down over generations. Usually people think of those like really big, juicy, kind of ugly looking tomatoes. But you can buy a lot of hybrid seed that carries the qualities of heirloom seeds, but also includes some genetic modifications that will be beneficial to growing those. A lot of heirloom seeds, the traditional heirloom seeds, may not have the plant growth type that you need in order to grow a really quality crop. So another type of seed that you might see, some other, in addition to those other labels, are enhanced seeds. So these are treated seeds that are grown under conventional systems and have a synthetic coating that is brightly colored. When you handle these seeds, you want to be wearing gloves and a mask. They are usually treated with a fungicidal treatment that protects the seed from soil-borne pests and pathogens during the seeding and germination phase. They are prohibited for use for organic growers. We use them here, usually like on corn. You'll see it's like bright pink corn. Some of our pumpkin seeds have also been like a bright green, and it just helps them to get through the cold phase in the soil when germination rates are slow. There's also film coating, which helps to increase seed flowability through better slippage between individual seeds. If you're an organic grower, you need to check with your certifier before using those seeds. Also, those treated seeds I just talked about, those bright pink seeds, those are prohibited for organic growers. Pelleted seeds are coated with this inert substance. It makes them so that they can be the same size and shape. This improves the seed quality as well, visibility, handling, and sowing. And they're sometimes offered as multi-seed units. Sometimes you'll find your beets have multiple seeds. They tend to have lower germination rates, so they pack in a couple extra seeds for you. We use pelleted seed for when we sow our lettuce. We just had a couple of years of doing this really big lettuce trial where we were seeding by hand all these trays, thousands of heads of lettuce, and they are wonderful. If you are interested, if you're going to be sowing lettuce or carrots and you can get it in a pelleted version and maybe pay a tiny bit more, I think it's totally worth it. As opposed to, you can like really put that seed where you want to put it and then maybe not have to spend so much time coming back to thin the seeds. Works so great. Prime seeds is when the seed company helps to improve germination speed and seedling uniformity, or break the dormancy in seeds. So I know you can find primed rosemary, which has a dormancy period, and usually you have to put it in, soak it and put it in a cold treatment. They will do that for you. So quickly, we're going to go over the stages of plant growth, because at different stages of plant growth, you need different levels of light and humidity and heat. So I want you to understand that these stages are coming, and we're going to focus on these first 3 stages because that's what's really important when seed starting. So there are these 5 stages of plant growth. It's a very simplistic explanation, and it doesn't always apply to all plants, but it does for most vegetables. So there's this inhibition period or a dormancy period, and then germination, propagation, and then a vegetative state, and then a flower initiation development stage, and then fruit and seed development. So in this inhibition dormancy stage, the seed is evolutionary adapted to prevent the seed from germinating during unsuitable ecological conditions. So winter or otherwise. Germination inhibitors are substances found in plants that delay seed germination. And sometimes you'll see recommendations to soak your seeds. One of the reasons for that is to help get off of that inhibitor and get your seed primed to be planted. The next stage is this germination propagation stage, where the period where the plant planting to emergence of the first true leaf, that first little pop. And then you see the first true leaf. So you'll see the first two cotyledons come out. They're usually kind of round and small, and they don't look like the leaves that you would normally see when you see a cucumber plant that are kind of jagged and pointy, or whatever the plant is. So you see those cotyledons pop out, and then you'll see the next set of leaves. Those are your first true leaves. That's what they're referring to here. And then once you see those, you're into a vegetative state. This is the period when reproductive structures are not being developed. So the plant's growing, but not growing flowers. And then this includes stem elongation and leaf expansion. And we'll get back to that a little bit. Right now, we're going to talk about potting media. Potting media supplies roots with nutrients, air, and water. It allows for maximum root growth and physically supports the plant. Roots grow in the spaces between the individual particles of soil. Air and water travel through these pore spaces, and water is the medium that carries the nutrients that plants need to fuel their growth. Air is needed for root growth and the health of the soil microorganisms that help supply plants with nutrients. Irrigation water moves through the pore spaces, pushing out air. If excess water cannot drain away, fresh air cannot enter and roots will suffocate. Select light and fluffy growing media for good aeration and root growth. I think if you understand that these concepts, then you can help to select good potting media. Also, it helps you to remember to not let your roots get oversaturated and sit in water for a long time. You need good drainage as well. Okay. More on potting media. Most potting mixes that you'll find commercially are soilless to avoid soil-borne diseases and promote good drainage. A mix of peat moss, vermiculite, perlite, and compost or organic fertilizers can provide a suitable environment with sufficient water holding capacity, nutrient content, and aeration for growth and development. Numerous commercial mixes are available. We use a commercial mix. We don't mix our own. If you're growing organically, make sure that you know what the ingredients are in your commercial mix and check to see if they're listed by the Organic Materials Review Institute. You'll see that OMRI label. It should state OMRI listed on the packaging. If not, check the OMRI website to see if it's listed. It's always best to call your certifier to ensure that the mix will not compromise your certification. Most commercial mixes contain a wetting agent to facilitate absorption by peat moss. So synthetic wetting agents are not allowed under organic production standards. And then here's some potting media and some recommendations. We use basically whatever is available and at a good price. We get ours through Progressive Grower Agricultural Supply. They have a website. Their website doesn't have everything listed that they sell. I usually look at their magazine. Their on the website, you can download the PDF version, and it's just easier to navigate. So when you're looking at potting media, there's a couple different types. There's a germination mix, which are the first two. It's like a light and fluffy. So the first one's a peat. perlite based mix right here. This one is a peat vermiculite mix. It's super, super fine. And then you use this mix when your potting cells on your tray are less than an inch. If anything is bigger than an inch, we use a pot mix. And it's like this one is a peat core fiber and perlite mix. It is still kind of fluffy, but sometimes it has some bark mixed in or some sticks mixed in. So I did list last year, ProMix FPX was the germination mix. Sometimes germination mix and propagation mixed are used interchangeably when you're looking in the catalogs. And then, so we use that when we're germinating, that first little stage when the seeds are small and the plants are small. And then when we need to pot them up into a bigger size pot, once they've gotten their second or third leaves, they go into a potting mix. And last year we happened to use the Berger all-purpose peat perlite mix. It had a coarse grade peat moss, perlite, dolomitic acid, and calcitic limestone, which are for pH balance, a non-ionic wetting agent to help you, because it will dry out and then it won't reabsorb water. And then it did have a little bit of fertilizer charge on it. It was not organic certified. There is a website here from the PSU extension, Pennsylvania State University, and it goes over potting media and has a bunch of formulas too if you wanted to make your own. And people do make their own. If you are going to make your own for a germination mix, I wouldn't start with adding in your compost. And if you want to use your home compost or your farm compost, I would have it tested first to see, how good is it? And they will tell you what you need to add to your compost in order to make a potting mix. If your pH is too high, they'll tell you to add lime and how much lime to add per unit. There are lots of resources out there. If you're looking beyond this one, which is fine, I would just look up EDU, because that's, if you type in EDU into your search bar along with whatever you're looking for, you're going to get resources from universities. Okay. Here are some of the amendments we briefly went over in that last slide. So peat moss is this one here. It is light and porous. It absorbs 10 to 20 times weight in water. It's partially composed moss mined from prehistoric non-renewable bogs. So in the United States, you might see peat moss coming from Canada. Those bogs are pretty plentiful, but again, that resource is non-renewable. If you watch any gardening shows over from Europe, everything is peat moss free. It's a really big push there because they've kind of drained all of their bogs because they use peat moss for everything, for heating their homes and all these things. So I tend to avoid peat moss because I'm worried about the ecological impact of draining the bogs, even though we have so many now because it's not renewable, but that's a personal choice. Coconut coir is used similarly to peat moss. It is slightly acidic and holds moisture well, just like peat moss. It allows for good root aeration. It's organic medium made from shredded coconut husks, but there's a high variability in product, and it's also put on a boat and shipped from like Sri Lanka, so there is a carbon impact there as well. Vermiculite is an excellent rooting medium. It has high cation exchange capacity. It's this gold looking stuff up here. It holds nutrients, it's porous, it has strong capillary action, excellent water holding. It's a mineral that is heated until it expands. And then perlite is this white stuff down here. It increases aeration. It's great water holding capacity. It's sterile because it's volcanic glass mined from the earth and exposed to high temperatures, and it makes it pop. So it comes sterile, which is great. So fertilizing your plants. We fertilize with a half strength fertilizer, a liquid fertilizer at first, and then you can switch over to a granular vegetable fertilizer as the plants grow. We have this fertigator in our greenhouses that hooks up to our, this fertigator has a line that goes right into the fertilizer bucket and then hooks up to our water line. So we water directly with this dosatron. You can also buy like liquid fertilizer and then mix it half strength with in your gallon of water or whatever you're using and fertilize your plants. Once the seeds pop, they need fertilizer. They need food. They have the food they need in that little seed to get them going. So you don't need to fertilize your plants that are just waiting to germinate, to pop. But once they pop, they need food. We fertilize every day. People do it like every other day too. That's usually fine. And this little bit goes over what you might see in your leaves if your foods aren't getting enough plant or heat. So nitrogen deficiency looks like yellowing of the lower, older leaves. And then phosphorus deficiency are reddening or purpling of older leaves. You might see it on your like tomato plants if they're getting too cold. Because if they're too cold, then they can't uptake the nutrients that they need. And also on that note, if you look up plant nutrition needs, you can find charts everywhere that will show you like, oh, if you have yellow older leaves, if you have yellow newer leaves, if you have spots, you can look at a chart and see what's going on with your plants. All right, optimal soil temperature. So check the growing instructions for your crop specific recommendations. If you go to a place like Johnny Seeds, on the back of the packet, they will tell you exactly what temperature your seeds need to be in order to germinate and to grow. Also, if you go on the Johnny's website, there's a whole section that will tell you the same information. I love Johnny Seeds. They're good seeds, good quality seeds, and they have a ton of information. All of you should be on there looking at all of their grower tips. So most seeds do like a little bit of heat in order to get them germinated, but not necessarily all of them. Some crops like to grow in the cold. If you think about like what time of year crops grow, like lettuces will take and brassicas and kales, they'll all grow in like those shoulder seasons, and spinach because they don't really like the heat that much, so they'll bolt in the heat. So those seeds don't necessarily need heat to germinate. And then all of those like summertime crops like the tomatoes and the peppers and eggplants, they like heat. They want to be warm, so they're going to need a warmer soil to germinate, and you'll know that soon. We use a heat mat to raise the soil temperature, and you can sometimes heat mats just like run at a normal, like they're 75. That's just what they do. If you buy them off of Amazon cheaply, you can get those. You can spend a little bit more money and buy heat maps and a soil probe or some kind of a temperature regulator so that the heat mat turns off when it hits whatever desired temperature you want. I've grown them both ways and I don't really see a significant difference, but the temperature recommended for germination is higher than the temperature for that newly germinated seed. So as soon as 75% of the tray has germinated, you can take it off the heat, move it somewhere else. You leave that heat on overnight, that's fine, until they're germinated, and then just move the next plant tray onto it. So it's always kind of rotating in the greenhouse for like a few months while you're getting all your crops going for the season, or wherever you're growing your seed. And here's a couple pictures. So this is the heat mat that we use, and like a soil. So this is the probe and this is the temperature guide, and it just plugs in super easy and it cuts that heat mat off when that soil temperature is met. Germination generally requires 65 to 85 degrees. Always check your crop. And we use heat mats, like I said. Other options include space heaters and incandescent light bulbs. We got these heat mats from Progressive Growers. Another thing that you need when germinating is humidity. So this is a humidity dome. It's like a little plastic half box. It sits right on top of your tray of seeds. And it helps to keep the heat in and the humidity in. And if it gets too hot, if you notice your seeds aren't doing well, you can prop it open and let some of that air out. This is also sitting underneath an incandescent light bulb, which is going to produce a little bit of heat too. If you don't have money to buy these domes, I have used clear plastic wrap, saran wrap, put a layer over the top of it. As soon as I'd say 50% of your seeds have germinated, take off that wrap because they need light immediately. And you'll notice this light is super close to these seedlings, like depending upon your light source, like 2 to 3 inches, maybe 4 inches above, because as soon as they germinate, they need light. As soon as they germinate, take them off the heat and give them the lights. So we'll talk about lighting a little bit. This is a lot of information. I'll provide the slideshow for you. There's like some charts on light requirements, but all I really want to talk about today is fluorescent lighting versus LED lighting. Fluorescent lighting is those like shop light racks. They're cheaper up front. They do produce a small amount of heat, and they're gonna cost more to run, but they work well. More popular you'll find are these LED lights. They're a little bit more upfront. They produce a wide range of color, but they have a very low energy cost, and they're not going to produce any heat either. You can get them on Amazon. You can get them on Progressive Grower. They have them on Johnny's. There's other places to buy them. Marijuana industry really uses these LED lights, so the availability has gone up. And you'll find them in like the red and blue light spectrums because that's what plants need in order to grow. So they make like a purple glow, which is totally fine. You can also use a white light, which provides all of the spectrums of light. It's really, they'll all work. You need a radiation of like 250 to 400 units, which if you're into that science stuff, you can look that up too. And then you can choose a color temperature in the red range from 35 to 45 K and the blue range from 5,000 to 7,000 K to promote your growth. But I found that I went on Amazon and just went up some LED grow lights and bought whatever came up, the long bars, and they worked great. If you don't have a greenhouse. Okay, so germination chambers, we don't have one, but lots of people use them. They help to keep the seeds nice and warm and also hold in the humidity. You can purchase them for $5,000 to $10,000, or you can DIY your own one with an old refrigerator, a tub of heated water, and an electrical heating unit. You would need more instruction than I can provide you in this class. There's some websites on how to start them. This is for larger growing operations. Okay. So now we're going to start talking about supplies. These are probably what you've seen. Move my picture. This 128 plastic tray. It has 128 holes. This one's 72 holes, 50, and then these are deeper for roots that don't like to be disturbed. And then this is a seed flat, so it's got these like tunnels, so you could seed tomatoes in there, a ton of them, and then you'll have like a whole little row of tomatoes, and you just pull them apart and then plant them into one of your plug trays. On Johnny's, there is this really cool chart. that tells you which crops to put into which kind of plug flat. So this 50 cell, you want to plant things like artichokes, cucumbers, melons, ornamental grasses, peppers, squash, tomatoes, you can put in there. 128s are for these like smaller things like lettuce and onions and shallots, although onions, honestly, I usually plant in a 10 by 20 flat or a 10 by 10. And broadcast them all into the one, not like individually by self. And on the back of Johnny Seeds, it'll tell you what kind of flat you should use to fill it. And the Vermont Compost Company has this really cool chart if you go on their website, which will tell you how much soil you need in order to fill the flat. So if you do your crop plan and you know that your 10 crops that you're going to grow or 20 and how many trays you need, if you are going to grow 200 plants of eggplant, and you're going to put them into these 50 cell trays because that's what eggplant likes to be grown in. Then you're going to need 4 of those. You can go to Vermont Compost Company and figure out how much soil you're going to need to purchase in order to fill your eggplant, and then you can calculate it all out and figure out how much soil you need to potting mix you're going to need to purchase to fill up all of your trays. I did that this year and just got an estimate, and then I rounded up, and I know that I need to buy 4 bags of the huge potting mix and like 6 bags of germination mix or whatever it ended up being. Anyway, that was a side note, sorry. But yeah, a lot of people use these plastic trays. They're great. You can usually use them for 1 or 2 seasons as long as you keep them out of the sun when they're not in use. And recommendation is to wash them with soap and water and maybe a peroxide dunk or spray also, just to prevent the cross-contamination of disease. Also on that note, if you're don't reuse your potting mix. So you fill this 50 plug tray, only half of them germinate. Do not take that other half of the tray and use it to germinate more seeds. Put it into your compost, because there's a possibility that the reason they didn't germinate was due to some kind of fungal or bacterial thing going on in your trays. So don't reuse the compost. Don't reuse your potting mix. Just dump it in your compost, and also wash your trays with soap and water. That being said, we don't do that, but it is good practice. So the first method we talked about was using those plastic trays. The next method is using soil blocks. So you can't really see it very well here, but there's this little plastic metal unit here, and you use it to fill up with soil, and then you hit the handle, and these little blocks come out, and you just put the seeds right into the blocks. And the benefit of that is you're not using as much plastic, which is nice for the environment. And also these will grow really well in here, and they will air prune their roots. And if you need more soil after the plant's grown so much that you need to upgrade this, there's like a whole system. So they have like little tiny blocks to start your seeds, 1-inch blocks to grow on the plants, and then you can bump them up into 4-inch blocks, and they just kind of like fit into each other. And I'll send you some videos on how to do this. Soil blocking is the second technique. The third technique is this paper pot system, and we just got a new paper pot system here at the farm. So this is a paper pot transplanter. It's kind of got a little tray, and it pulls a string of plants and plants them. So instead of you bending over and planting these individually one by one, or buying some huge piece of equipment where you're just dropping them off the back of a bed of a tractor, they have a tractor with an attachment to it, and you have to, like, that's a lot of money to buy something that big. You can, so in between size farms, half an acre to an acre, you can use this system. So it comes with these over here. You can see these little paper fan looking things, and you expand them onto using a spreader, and then you fill these cells with soil, and then you put seeds in each individual cell, and they actually sell a really cool like seed dropper to drop them in if you want to spend a little bit more money. And the whole system costs a couple $1,000s, but it saves your back and it saves on labor because this person planted this row in probably 5 minutes versus hours to individually plant them. And that's it for today. Here are my references. Again, I'm gonna post the slides for you if you want to go back. I'm gonna try to post them so that you can go in and click all the links. And also look for the videos that I'll include of those 3 methods so you can actually see how it's done. Thank you.